I came home expecting peace. Instead, I walked into a battlefield. The kind of battlefield where the enemy isn't holding a weapon to your face, but is sitting on your couch, laughing, drinking your whiskey, and acting like he owns your home. 6 months. 6 months of deployment, of grueling missions, of sand in my boots and adrenaline pumping through my veins. I had counted the days until I could finally come home, hold my wife, sleep in my own bed. But the moment I stepped through that door, I knew something was off. The air smelled different. There was a strange cologne lingering, one I didn't recognize. And then I heard them, her giggling, his deep voice. I should have been furious. I should have shouted, broken something, demanded answers. But I didn't. Instead, I stood there, perfectly still, watching. The man on my couch was comfortable, too comfortable. His legs were stretched out, feet on my coffee table. His shirt was half-buttoned, revealing a tattoo across his chest. He was drinking from my glass, using my remote, like he had done this 100 times before. And her? She was curled up beside him, laughing at some inside joke. She looked happy. That was what struck me the most. Not guilt, not panic, just pure, undisturbed happiness. I knocked on the doorframe with my knuckle. A small sound, but enough to make them turn. My wife's smile froze mid-laugh. The guy? He just looked at me, raising an eyebrow, not even flinching, like I was the one intruding. Honey, you're home early, she said, her voice too high-pitched. Early? I was exactly on time. She just wasn't expecting me to walk in on her living a whole other life. I didn't respond. I just let the silence stretch. The guy leaned forward slightly, smirking. He was younger than me. A gym rat, by the look of his arms. Probably thought he was something special. He held out a hand, casual. Hey, man, didn't mean to catch you off guard. Catch me off guard? I stared at that outstretched hand. He really thought I was about to shake it. That was when I made my decision. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to fight him because that would be too easy. No, this needed to be handled differently. Cold. Strategic. Unforgettable. I slowly set down my duffel bag. My uniform was still covered in the dust of a foreign country, the boots scuffed from missions that felt like another life now. I had spent the last 6 months surviving situations this guy wouldn't last 5 minutes in. And yet, here he was, sitting in my home, drinking my whiskey, wearing my wife's affection like it belonged to him. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I turned to my wife. How long? Her mouth opened, then closed. Then she tried to smile as if she could smooth this over. It's not what it looks like. That was funny. Genuinely funny. I almost laughed. The guy shifted, sensing the tension. Look, man, no hard feelings. We didn't think you'd be back yet. I'll give you guys some space. He stood up, stretching, completely relaxed. He thought he could just leave. That I would let him walk out the door and disappear, let my wife cry and beg, let this turn into one of those pathetic scenes where the betrayed husband either forgives or leaves in humiliation. No, not this time. I nodded toward the door. Go ahead. The guy actually smiled, like he had won something. He grabbed his jacket, threw one last glance at my wife, some silent message passing between them that made my stomach twist, and then walked past me. I didn't stop him. Not yet. I watched my wife fidget, running a hand through her hair, already preparing some long-winded excuse. I ignored her. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and pressed send. Across town, a plan was already in motion. She had no idea. Neither did he. Life before the betrayal was simple. Good. Steady in a way I had always appreciated. It wasn't perfect, no life is, but it was mine, and I took pride in it. Mornings were quiet but warm. I'd wake up early, long before sunrise, the habit ingrained from years of service. My wife, Sarah, was never a morning person, so I'd let her sleep while I brewed coffee, the rich aroma filling our small but comfortable home. Sometimes I'd make breakfast, nothing fancy, just eggs and toast, but I liked the routine of it. There was something grounding about starting the day in the same kitchen where we had shared so many late-night conversations, so many whispered dreams about the future. She would eventually shuffle in, wrapped in a blanket, hair a mess, grumbling about the early hour. I always found it endearing. She would yawn, stretch, and then lean against the counter, sipping from the mug I had poured for her. "You're too chipper for this early," she'd mumble, and I'd just chuckle, watching as she slowly woke up. That was our rhythm. Small, unspoken rituals that made us feel like a team. Evenings were better. I'd come home from work, sore but satisfied. Being in the military meant long hours, unpredictable schedules, but Sarah never complained. She had always been understanding about the demands of my job. That's what I loved about her. She got it. She knew what it meant to love a man who could be called away at any moment, and she never made me feel guilty for it. I'd walk through the door, and she'd be there, waiting, smiling. Sometimes she'd be in the kitchen, pretending to cook while actually just scrolling on her phone, waiting for me to take over. Other times she'd be on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, watching some silly reality show that I pretended to hate but secretly enjoyed because it made her laugh. Nights were the best. We'd sit together, legs tangled, talking about everything and nothing. She would tell me about her day, about some ridiculous customer at the cafe where she worked part-time, or about the book she was reading. I'd listen, really listen, because I loved the way she spoke when she was excited about something. It was those little moments, the soft sound of her voice, the way she'd have scently trace patterns on my arm, that made everything feel right. Of course, there were signs. Tiny, insignificant things that, at the time, I brushed off as normal changes, shifts in routine that didn't seem worth questioning. She started dressing up more, even when she wasn't going anywhere special. At first, I thought nothing of it. Every woman likes to feel beautiful. She got more protective over her phone. Again, not something that immediately raised alarms. Everyone values privacy. She started staying out later with friends. That one made me pause, but I convinced myself it was harmless. She deserved a life outside of me. It wasn't until I left for deployment that things really changed. The messages became less frequent. The phone calls shorter. When we did talk, she seemed distracted, always somewhere else, as if she had one foot out the door. But I chalked it up to stress, to distance, to the strain that time apart puts on any relationship. Even when I came home for a short leave and things felt off, I didn't let myself dwell on it. She still kissed me, still told me she loved me, still curled up beside me at night. I told myself that was enough. I was wrong. Looking back, I see the cracks that had already begun to form. The moments where she pulled away just a little too quickly, the way she started sleeping facing the other direction, the way she stopped asking about my day, as if she had already moved on to something or someone else. I should have seen it. But when you love someone, really love them, you don't look for reasons to doubt them. You trust. You believe in the life you've built together. That was my mistake. I believed. It started with a missed call. A small thing, really. Nothing that should have meant anything. But sometimes, it's the smallest things that leave the biggest cracks. I was sitting in our living room, unwinding after a long shift, my boots kicked off, my mind still halfway in work mode. Sarah was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone as she leaned against the counter, absent-mindedly biting her lip the way she always did when she was lost in thought. I had seen that look before, usually when she was deep into some book or trying to remember if we had milk in the fridge. Then, her phone vibrated. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. She flinched. That caught my attention. Not the call itself, but the way she reacted to it. A slight tension in her shoulders, the quick way her eyes darted to me before turning away. She didn't answer. Instead, she flipped her phone over, screen down, and forced a smile. "You want another drink?" I studied her for a second. "Who was that?" She hesitated. Barely a fraction of a second, but I noticed. "Just Rachel," she said, a little too casually. Rachel was her best friend. A serial over texter. But this wasn't a text, it was a call. And Sarah never ignored Rachel's calls, especially not at night. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched as she busied herself, moving to the fridge, pulling out a drink with more effort than necessary. When she handed it to me, I took it, but my eyes stayed on her. "Everything okay?" I asked. She nodded, too quickly. "Yeah, just friend stuff." She had never used that excuse before. Sarah wasn't the type to pull the friend stuff card with me. If something was bothering her, she told me. If she needed space, she asked for it. This was different. This was deflection. I let it go. For the moment. But something had shifted. The next day, I started noticing other things. The way she kept her phone on silent when she never used to. The way she suddenly started locking the bathroom door when she showered, even though I had never once barged in without knocking. The way she started wearing perfume to run errands, even though I knew for a fact she barely remembered to put it on for date nights. Alone, none of these things meant anything. But together, they felt like smoke before a fire. That evening, I decided to test something. A simple thing. A harmless question. What time do you work tomorrow? I asked as we sat on the couch. She didn't look up from her phone. Same as usual. I leaned back. Same as usual wasn't an answer. Sarah worked a rotating schedule at the cafe. Some days she opened, some days she closed. She never referred to it as same as usual. She always had specifics, 7 to 3 or 11 to close. Not this vague, dismissive answer. She must have felt my eyes on her, because she finally glanced up. Why? Just wondering if you wanted to grab dinner after. A pause. A flicker of something in her expression. I might be late. I told Rachel I'd help her with something. Rachel again. That was twice now she had used her best friend as a shield. Cool, I said, keeping my tone even. I'll text Rachel and see if she wants to grab lunch this weekend. For the first time, real hesitation crossed her face. She's been busy lately. Family stuff. That was a lie. I had seen Rachel 2 days ago when I stopped by the cafe. She was perfectly fine. No mention of any family drama. No indication that she needed Sarah's help for anything. That was the moment I knew something was off. Not suspected, knew. Because Sarah had never been a good liar. And now, she was lying straight to my face. I stopped asking questions. Asking meant giving her a chance to lie. Instead, I watched. Listened. Not for the words she was saying, but for the ones she wasn't. I had spent years in the military learning how to read people, enemy movements, patterns, inconsistencies. War teaches you that a man's intentions aren't in his words, they're in his behavior. And Sarah's behavior had changed. First, it was the passwords. She had never been the type to care much about privacy between us. Her phone used to sit unlocked on the counter, her laptop open while she scrolled through recipes or messaged friends. Now, a passcode appeared on her phone. Her laptop, too, when I casually asked her about it one night. Keeping my tone light, as if I wasn't already suspicious, she gave me a forced smile. I just got paranoid after hearing about some hacking stories at work, she said, too quickly, too rehearsed. Right. Hacking stories. Sure. Then there were the late-night texts. She thought I wasn't noticing, but I was. The way she would glance at her phone while we watched TV, the way she'd subtly angle the screen away when a notification popped up, the way she started taking it with her to the bathroom, something she never used to do. Before, she'd leave it on the nightstand, forgotten. Now, it was practically glued to her hand. Still, I didn't react. Reacting meant tipping her off. Instead, I tested her. One night, as we lay in bed, she was on her phone, scrolling mindlessly, or at least pretending to. I reached over and playfully tried to take it, just like I had 100 times before, usually to put on some song or show her something funny. But this time she tensed, pulled it away, just a fraction of a second too fast. Just checking something, she said, her voice casual. But her body language wasn't. That was all I needed. The next step was verifying the lies. A few days later, she said she was going out with Rachel again. She's going through a tough time, she added, as if that was supposed to explain why she had been spending more time with her friend than her husband. We're just going to grab some wine, talk. Friend stuff. I nodded, smiled, told her to have fun. Then, I followed her. Not right away. I wasn't careless. I gave her a head start, waited a few minutes, then grabbed my keys and took a different route to the place where she was supposedly meeting Rachel. But when I arrived, she wasn't there. No sign of her car. No Rachel. The restaurant was busy, people laughing, clinking glasses, but Sarah wasn't among them. I didn't need to check twice. I drove back, keeping a safe distance, my mind working through possibilities, probabilities. If she wasn't with Rachel, where was she? Who was she with? I didn't have to wait long for the answer. As I pulled onto our street, her car was already in the driveway. She had beaten me home, just barely. A small victory for her, a bigger one for me. She had lied. And now, I had proof. I walked inside to find her sitting on the couch, a glass of wine in her hand, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. She looked up, surprised. "You're home early." I shrugged, decided to call it a night. She smiled, but there was something off about it. Forced. "How was your night?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "Uneventful." "Yours?" Another flicker of hesitation. A microsecond of delay before she answered. Good. Rachel and I just talked for hours. You know how she is. I nodded. I knew exactly how Rachel was. And I knew Sarah wasn't with her. Now, I just needed to find out who she was with. The truth always comes out. Sometimes it creeps in slowly, giving you time to process it, to prepare for impact. Other times, it crashes down like a landslide, burying you under the weight of what you never wanted to see. For me, it was the second kind. I had already known, deep down. I had known for weeks. But knowing and seeing are two different things. Suspicion is a slow burn. Proof is an explosion. And that night, I found the match that lit everything up. Sarah had fallen asleep early. Or at least, she pretended to. I had watched as she curled up on her side, facing away from me, her breathing deliberately even. The kind of stillness that wasn't real sleep, just an attempt to avoid conversation. That was fine. I didn't need her to talk. I needed her to slip up. She had started keeping her phone under her pillow, as if that was going to stop me. I waited until I was sure she was deep enough in fake sleep. Then I reached under her pillow and pulled it out in one quick, silent motion. She didn't stir. The screen was locked. Of course. But I had been watching long enough to memorize the way her fingers moved when she unlocked it. 4 digits. Quick flick of the thumb. I had seen it a dozen times, never paying attention before. Now, every detail mattered. I tried one of the usual combinations. Nothing. Another. Still nothing. On the 3rd try, the screen lit up. Unlocked. For a split second, I hesitated. There was a small, irrational part of me that wanted to believe I was wrong. That I'd open her messages and find nothing. That I'd feel silly for doubting her. That I'd put the phone back and pretend this moment never happened. Then I saw the name. Logan. Not Rachel. Not a coworker. A name I had never seen before, yet one she had been texting almost every night for the past 2 months. I tapped the conversation. And there it was. The kind of messages that turn your stomach. The kind you can't unread. Last night was incredible. I can still feel you. I miss your touch. He doesn't suspect a thing. My mind went blank. Completely, utterly blank. Like a switch had been flipped. No anger. Not yet. Just a deep, hollow silence inside me. I scrolled. There were photos. Not just of her, but of them. Together. In places I recognized. Our home. Our bed. The couch where we had watched movies. The kitchen where I had made her coffee every morning. The worst part? The timestamps. She had been with him while I was deployed. While I was halfway across the world, counting the days until I could come back to her. She had been counting the minutes until he arrived at my house, drinking my whiskey, enjoying her company. A slow, steady burn started in my chest. Not the kind of rage that makes you reckless, but the kind that sharpens you. A precise, controlled fire. I looked at her. She was still curled up, peaceful, oblivious. The woman I had loved. The woman I had trusted. And just like that, I stopped loving her. I put the phone back exactly where I had found it. Then I got up, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a drink. My hands didn't shake. My breathing didn't change. If anyone had walked in at that moment, they would have thought I was just a man enjoying a late-night whiskey. But inside, my mind was already working. She thought I didn't suspect a thing? She was wrong. She thought she had gotten away with it? She was about to learn exactly who she had betrayed. Revenge wasn't about anger. It wasn't about screaming or breaking things. That was for men who let their emotions control them. No, I wasn't going to be that kind of man. I was going to be calculated, precise, cold. Sarah thought she was untouchable, that she had outsmarted me, that her secret texts, her locked phone, and her careful lies were enough to keep her safe, that she had me fooled. But here's the thing about war, you don't survive by reacting. You survive by thinking ahead. And right now, I was already 5 moves ahead of her. Destroying her wasn't enough. Ruining her wasn't enough. If I wanted this to matter, if I wanted her to truly understand what she had done, then I needed to take away the things she valued most. Not just leave her broken, but leave her knowing that she had done it to herself. So I started studying her, watching her the way I would watch an opponent. Because if you want to take someone apart, you don't just go for the obvious weak spots. You find the foundation, and you rot it from the inside out. Sarah wasn't just some careless betrayer. She had built a double life, one where she played the devoted wife in public and the reckless deceiver in private. She had made sure to curate her image, sweet, loving, loyal. That was her weapon, the thing that kept people on her side. If I wanted to take her down, I needed to strike at that image. And Logan? The man who had been sneaking into my home, enjoying my wife's company, drinking my whiskey? He wasn't just some random guy. He was comfortable in my house. That meant he had been here a lot. That meant he felt safe. And the moment a man feels safe, he stops watching his back. That was going to be his mistake. I spent the next few days setting the stage. I didn't change my routine. Didn't act differently. Didn't let Sarah see so much as a flicker of suspicion in my eyes. I kissed her when she left, texted her when I was at work, even planned a nice dinner for us, just to keep her feeling secure. Because the worst thing you can do to a liar is let them think they're still in control. The first part of my plan was information. Sarah thought her phone was safe. That was her first mistake. She had changed her passcode after the night I unlocked it, but that didn't matter. I didn't need access anymore. I already had everything I needed. What I needed now was Logan's information. So, I played dumb. One evening, as we sat on the couch, I glanced at her phone by accident when a notification popped up. "Who's Logan?" I asked casually. She flinched. Just a tiny movement, but enough for me to notice. "Oh, just someone from work," she said too quickly, too lightly. "Nothing important." Lie. But that was exactly what I wanted. Because now, I had my opening. A few days later, I staged the perfect opportunity. I told Sarah I'd be working late, something believable, something she wouldn't question. Then, I parked my car a few blocks away and walked home, silent as a ghost. The lights were off, but I already knew she was inside. Not alone. I had timed it perfectly. I didn't storm in, didn't make a sound. I just waited, long enough to hear everything. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the low murmur of voices. Then, finally, I heard exactly what I had been waiting for, her giggle, the same one she used to give me. That was my confirmation. I slipped away unnoticed, but not before setting up the final stage. Sarah's reputation was built on trust. At work, she played the loyal wife card constantly. Her coworkers adored her for it. Friends and family saw her as the sweet, innocent woman who had been waiting for her husband to come home from deployment. She had crafted this image so carefully that it was untouchable. Until now, I had collected everything I needed: screenshots, voice recordings, even a perfect video of Logan leaving our house in the middle of the night, all neatly packaged. Then came the masterpiece, an anonymous email. To her boss, her coworkers, her family, her friends, each one containing a simple message. "Just thought you should know who Sarah really is," with undeniable proof attached. And then, to make sure the knife twisted just a little deeper, I scheduled a romantic date night with her. Candlelit dinner, wine, everything she loved. Except this time, instead of sitting across from her, smiling like the fool she thought I was, I simply left my phone on the table, screen unlocked, playing the compilation of her own betrayal. The moment her face drained of color, I stood, picked up my keys, walked away. No screaming, no drama, just the cold, brutal realization that she had just lost everything. And the best part? She had no one to blame but herself. Execution had to be perfect. Not just good perfect. Sarah had built her lie carefully, piece by piece, over months, maybe even longer. She had made sure to control the narrative, to keep everything hidden under layers of deception. So if I wanted my revenge to mean anything, I had to do more than just expose her. I had to take away control. She had to feel it unravel in real time. No chance to lie. No time to explain. No way to manipulate. The dinner was set. I made sure of that. A reservation at one of her favorite restaurants, a place where we had celebrated anniversaries, birthdays, the kind of place filled with warm memories. Because when you want to break someone, you don't take them somewhere new. You take them somewhere familiar and ruin it. She walked in, dressed in that navy blue dress she always wore for special nights, expecting romance. Expecting me to be the fool she had turned me into. But as soon as she saw the folder sitting on the table, neatly closed, but waiting like a loaded gun, I saw it, that flicker of fear. She masked it quickly, putting on her usual charming smile. "What's this?" she asked, settling into her seat across from me. I didn't answer right away. Just let the silence stretch. Let the weight of the unknown settle on her. Then, slowly, I slid the folder across the table. "Open it." She hesitated. Just for a second. Then she laughed, forced. What is this? A secret mission? Still playing games? Still thinking she could joke her way out? I leaned forward, keeping my voice calm. Open it. She did. And that's when the unraveling began. At first, her eyes flicked over the pages too quickly, scanning for something, anything, that could let her pretend. Then she saw the screenshots, the texts, the photos, and her face went pale. Her fingers trembled slightly as she flipped to the next page. Call logs, timestamps, the undeniable timeline of her betrayal. Then, the final blow. A printed email thread, the one sent to her boss, her colleagues, her family, every important person in her life. Her breath hitched. She looked up at me, her mask cracking. What did you do? I tilted my head, watching her understand. No, she whispered, flipping through the pages faster, as if she could undo them by sheer will. Then her eyes darted around the restaurant, suddenly aware that this wasn't private, that people were looking, sensing the tension, exactly as I planned. I can explain, she stammered, her voice uneven. I took a sip of my drink. Can you? Her mouth opened, then closed, because she knew there was no way out of this. She glanced around desperately, looking for an escape, but I had given her none. And then she made the worst mistake. She checked her phone, and that's when she saw the notifications. Messages from her boss, from friends, from family. All of them had received the same package. I saw her breathing change. Faster, panic settling in. Her fingers hovered over the screen, but she knew it was useless. There was no fixing this. You didn't, she whispered. I did. She started shaking her head, as if denying reality would change it. You don't understand, it wasn't. I laughed. Actually laughed. Sarah, stop. She flinched. You don't get to lie your way out of this. Not this time. She stared at me, and for the first time since this started, I saw real fear. Not fear of losing me, fear of losing everything else. The job, the reputation, the perfect image she had carefully maintained. You've ruined my life, she finally choked out. No, I said, leaning forward, my voice steady, cold. You ruined your own life. I just turned the lights on so everyone else could see it. She covered her mouth with her hand, blinking rapidly, as if she was trying to hold back tears. But I knew it wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was terror. Then came the final touch. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a single key, and set it on the table. Her key. To my house, where the locks had already been changed, where her bags were already packed and waiting for her at a motel far away from me, where she no longer had a place, no longer had a home. She stared at it like it was a live grenade. You're not coming back? I said simply. Her lips parted. Please, we can talk. I pushed my chair back, standing, leaving, because this conversation was already over. I walked past her as she sat there, frozen, surrounded by people who now knew exactly what kind of person she was. And just as I reached the door, I heard it. Not a sob, not a scream, just a single, broken gasp. Checkmate. I didn't look back. Not once. As I walked out of the restaurant, I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The stunned silence, the way her breath hitched as she realized that her world wasn't just cracking, it was collapsing. Every carefully crafted lie, every excuse, every manipulation, all of it was now worthless. Because now, the truth wasn't just between us. It was everywhere. The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside, but I barely noticed. My heartbeat was steady. No adrenaline, no second thoughts. I had done exactly what needed to be done. There was no undoing it, no softening the blow. She had played her game. I had simply made sure that she lost. I didn't go home. She didn't have the address anymore. Instead, I went to the hotel where I had booked a room under her name. Not to stay, of course, but to leave her belongings there. A reminder. She had no key, no safe place to run back to. She wasn't walking into the house she had betrayed, pretending it was still hers. No, tonight she would step into a room filled with her own bags, her own clothes, neatly packed and waiting for her. Proof that she had been erased from my life. And then, I waited. Not because I was uncertain, not because I cared, but because I wanted to see it happen. It took her 20 minutes to call. I let it ring. Then again, and again. By the fourth time, I picked up. Not because I wanted to hear her voice, but because I knew she needed to hear mine. "Where are you?" she asked, her voice already shaking. No more confidence. No more fake smiles. I didn't answer. Just let the silence stretch. Let her feel it. "Please," she whispered. Just talk to me." I exhaled slow. Measured. "I did talk to you, Sarah. You just weren't listening." Her breath hitched. I don't understand." "Yes, you do." My voice was calm. Even. Final. A choked sound escaped her throat. "You changed the locks?" I didn't answer. She already knew. There was a pause. Then, the shift, the last desperate attempt to salvage control. "Listen, I know you're upset, but we can fix this." I swear, it didn't mean anything. I laughed. A real laugh this time. "You really think that matters?" She scrambled for words, as if any combination of them could undo what had already been done. "We can talk, just face to face, Io." "No." Silence. "No," she repeated, voice cracking. "No," I said again, letting the weight of that one word settle. "There's nothing left to talk about." The panic really set in then. But where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? That was it. That was the moment. The moment where she realized what I had taken from her. Not just me. Everything. Her safe home. Her clean reputation. The people who used to admire her, trust her, respect her. All gone. She had expected me to be like every other man she had deceived, forgiving, weak, willing to give her another chance. She had built her entire game around the idea that she would always have control. Not this time. I leaned back against the hotel wall, watching as my car sat ready to take me anywhere but back to her. "You'll figure it out," I said finally, my tone almost thoughtful. "You always do, don't you?" Another sharp breath. Another broken sound from the other end of the line. "I didn't want this," she whispered. And for the first time that night, I let my voice drop just enough to make sure she felt everything I meant in the next sentence. Neither did I. Then I hung up. And this time, I never looked back. Sarah's downfall didn't happen all at once. It was slow, unraveling in pieces, one after another, until there was nothing left of the life she had carefully built. At first, she tried to fight it. She must have thought she could still control the damage, smooth things over, find a way back to safety. She started with her family, calling them, trying to explain, twisting the story to make herself the victim. But it didn't work. I had made sure of that. The emails I sent weren't just evidence. They were undeniable truth. There were no vague accusations, no room for interpretation. Just cold, hard proof of who she really was. Her parents, people who had once treated me like a son, stopped answering her calls. Her mother, the kind woman who used to send me holiday cards when I was deployed, sent me a message instead. "I'm so sorry. You deserved better." That was all it said, but it was enough. Then came her friends. Or rather, the people she thought were her friends. Sarah had always been the type to keep people close, to play the role of the sweet, reliable one in her circle. But people don't like liars. And they especially don't like knowing they've been fooled. One by one, they distanced themselves. Some didn't even bother responding when she reached out. Others made it clear exactly what they thought of her. Unbelievable. How could you do this? Don't ever call me again. She had burned too many bridges at once, and now she had nowhere to turn. Work was next. The cafe she loved, the job she had always spoken about with pride. She had built her image there too, playing the loyal wife, the woman who supported her military husband, who held down the home front while I was away. That reputation had been her shield. But when the truth surfaced, when her coworkers and even her boss saw the messages, the pictures, the undeniable betrayal, that shield shattered. She wasn't fired, but she might as well have been. The whispers followed her everywhere. Customers who used to greet her warmly now looked at her with thinly veiled judgment. Her boss cut her hours. The tension in that place must have been suffocating, because less than 2 weeks after everything came out, she quit. Or maybe she was forced out. It didn't matter. She had nothing left. And me? I moved on. Not overnight, not instantly, but on my terms. I didn't drown in sorrow or let anger consume me. I didn't waste time thinking about what-ifs or regrets. I had done exactly what I needed to do. I had made her feel the very thing she had made me feel powerless. I found a new place. Somewhere fresh, somewhere untouched by the memories of her betrayal. I reconnected with old friends, focused on my career, rebuilt my life from the ground up, but without her in it. The last time I saw Sarah was by accident. Months later, at a grocery store. She looked different. Not just tired, not just worn down small. Like the weight of everything had finally settled on her, like she was carrying something too heavy to bear. She saw me. I know she did. For a second, it looked like she wanted to say something. Maybe an apology. Maybe some last-ditch effort to salvage what was long gone. But I didn't stop. I walked past her, without a second glance. And that was the moment she truly lost. Some people say revenge isn't worth it. That it doesn't change what happened, that it doesn't heal anything. Maybe they're right. Maybe, for some people, the best thing to do is walk away, let karma do the work. But I've never been the kind of man to leave things to fate. Sarah didn't just betray me. She chose to betray me. Repeatedly. Not in a moment of weakness, not in a way that could be excused or forgiven. She planned it. She built her lies carefully, assuming I would never see the cracks. She played her role so well that even when the signs were right in front of me, I wanted to believe she was still the woman I had trusted. But trust is a fragile thing. Once it's broken, there's no putting it back together. Somewhere out there, Sarah is still dealing with the wreckage of her own making. Maybe she's moved away. Maybe she's tried to start over. But no matter where she goes, no matter how many times she changes jobs, friends, relationships, she will always be the woman who lost everything. Because when you betray someone who would have given you the world, you don't just lose them, you lose yourself. And me? I didn't just move on. I thrived. Because I didn't just take back my life. I took away the one thing she thought she would always have control. So now, I have a question for you. If you were in my position, would you have done the same? Or would you have walked away and let her believe she got away with it? Let me know. Because I have a feeling, if you were in my shoes, you wouldn't have let her walk away unscathed either.